Clewiston, Florida, waiting for the demonstration to begin. People from the south, the east, and the west showing up here today to try and meeting of the minds.
Nice to meet you. How are you? I'm fine.
No, I got the name of it. Only this river can bear me away. Off its new album? I don't know. Yeah, I want to hear it. It's on YouTube. I talked to the yeah. Nice. Good. See them on what they play. Do you have any water, Mike? They're on the other bank.
Everybody up for that? Okay, let's start with, what do we want? Clean water. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Clean water. When do we want it? Now.
And we got so many amazing people and organizations here, and it's a proud moment for all of us to get them all in one spot. My name is Justin Riney, for those of you who don't know me. Thank you, thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's taken time out of their busy schedules today to come out. I want to thank the city of Clewiston. Man, they've just, yeah, let's hear it for Clewiston. They are such a critical part of this solution and the puzzle here, and we're just grateful that they welcomed us with open arms. And you know, I want to thank all the different organizations that are here from both the east and the west coast, as well as some of the towns along the lower southern rim of the dike here. We've got organizations from North Florida here, as well as South Florida, and just a lot of amazing individuals. You know, most of us, it's funny, you know, walking around here, most of us know each other from Facebook, which is pretty, it's pretty special. You know, it shows the power of social media, and it shows the power to bring about a sense of unity. It's holding some of these politicians accountable. We're able to promote a strong sense of transparency on social media. And I encourage each and every one of you to continue using that as an outlet, man. Let's just keep this rally and movement going. You think of people power versus political power, and this is one of our strongest platforms to unite and come together, and this is a result of that. So be proud of that and embrace it. I also want to set the tone for this Sugarland Rally. You know, obviously it's in a controversial area. As you can see back here, we've got U.S. Sugar here in the background. We wanted to diffuse any notion that this is a protest against the sugar industry. It's not a protest against the city of Clewiston. We're not advocating we're flooding their lands. This is a peaceful rally to bring together a lot of different opinions, a lot of different perspectives. We want to open people's minds. Sometimes we tend to get pigeonholed in certain portions of the state, and we only hear one aspect of the solution. And it's important to get the east, the west, the Clewistons, the northern half. It's important to get all these different perspectives so that we can have that appreciation for them when we're creating solutions. This is a peaceful rally. We don't want any trouble. We've got children here. The children, we've got children from all over the place, man. I can't wait to see some of these kids speak. But let's keep it civil. Let's keep the conversation intelligent. Let's be respectful. We're all Floridians. We're all brothers. We're all after the same cause here. My opinion is going to be completely different from yours, but I'm sure as hell going to listen and be respectful of everybody's opinions. Man, you must be crazy if you think I'm running for politics. Again, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Justin Riney. I'm the founder of an organization called Mother Ocean. Right now I'm on day 244 of Expedition Florida 500, and thank you. For those of you that aren't aware of Expedition Florida 500, it's basically a 365-day journey of mine on a paddleboard to showcase Florida's outdoors and waterways. It's all nonprofit work. We're really motivated to help bring awareness to the general public what we have available at our disposal on the weekends. And there's so many diverse ecosystems and beautiful areas of the state that nobody's ever seen. You know, I grew up in Vero Beach, so I thought of Florida as a small coastal retirement community. But you know, you see the Panhandle, you see the Keys, you see the central portion, which we just came through in Kissimmee. This is such a diverse state, man. And I've had the good fortune of seeing all of it in the last 7 or 8 months, really. I circumnavigated the coastline in the first 6 months, and the second half is dedicated to the inland waters and raising awareness for the inland waters. And I was supposed to start on the St. John's. I chose to reroute my plans here to come down the Kissimmee to raise awareness for these discharges instead. And thank you. We were confident that the Sugarland Rally or something like it would have happened without our work. We just planted the seed and involved a lot of different organizations, and I'm so grateful for that. Whenever, you know, it was funny, I remember that moment actually. I was sitting at the dinner table with my folks after I just finished up the first 6 months, and all this Lake Okeechobee stuff was going on, and there was a lot of outcry, and I sat across the table. I was like, man, it would be wonderful, you know, if I started the second half on the Kissimmee. My father and I made the eye contact, and I was like, man, that's just like perfect, you know. So the first phone call I made was to Jackie Thurlow-Lipich. Jackie has become such a good voice for our waterways here and all throughout the state, really, and I respect her and admire her so much. She's a huge inspiration to me, and she's become a good friend and will now be a mentor of mine as well, which I'm excited for. So I made the phone call to Jackie, and I said, we're going to Clewiston, baby. And she was excited. She got all fired up, and then we made the calls and got the rest of the committee members involved, and it snowballed from there. I've been on the Kissimmee River for the last week and a half, so I really did none of the work that you're seeing here. Nations that came together and threw money at producing some of these banners, and it was the work of a lot of people. So I'm really grateful and proud to be a part of that, and I hope you all will respect that and help me thank them now with your support. And Jackie's going to be moderating this. I couldn't think of a better person to moderate this. So briefly, I want to give my opinion on this because I got the mic. So I just came down the Kissimmee, and you know, last November was my first time spent on the Kissimmee River, and I call it the Kissimmee Canal because that's exactly what it is, unfortunately. But you know, when they cut the C-38 down the middle, a lot of you don't know the history behind that. The Kissimmee was just a beautiful winding river all the way from Lake Kissimmee all the way down to Okeechobee, and they cut a canal straight down at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did, and not pointing fingers at them, they were under direction to do that. But you know, we realized the mistake we had made shortly after. The water was flowing too quickly to Lake Okeechobee, and it wasn't having the opportunity to get clean along the way, you know, through the natural ecosystem there. And they've done a lot of work. The DEP and numerous other organizations have done a lot of work to repair that northern half, and it makes sense to start in the northern half, right? The headwaters of the Everglades starts in East Lake Toho, and the water begins to flow south from there, all through the chain of lakes, down into Lake Kissimmee, through the Kissimmee Canal, and then into the restored portion of the Kissimmee River, all the way down into Lake Okeechobee. That's the main source of pollution coming into Lake Okeechobee right now. And despite the restoration work is beautiful. I'd encourage all of you to get out there and see it. But unfortunately, it's only such a small portion of that canal that they've backfilled. there's 3 separate ecosystems that it's created, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there. You know, coming through that restoration work, it's like going from black and white to color. You see, you're paddling in a canal, you see no gators, you see no wildlife, and then you turn the corner into this restoration work, and it's just like a natural river. The color lights up, birds, gators, everything. And they need to spend more money to fix that immediately. What that will do is it'll slow the water coming south, obviously. Less water into Lake Okeechobee, and it'll clean the water on the way down. Those natural oxbows and all the ecosystem along the way will help clean that water. So that will alleviate such a huge portion of this problem. And there's been all sorts of delays. You know, they blame funding. But yet they've got, we were just there, we talked to a lot of the locals, we talked to a Corps of Engineers person that we happened to see on the side of the road there, and they've got projects going to put in new floodgates and just unnecessary stuff when they should be focused much more on restoring that entire old river, in my opinion. So that's my piece on the Kissimmee. I would say obviously the immediate short-term solutions of the discharges need to be discussed immediately, and that's the priority right now. But from a long-term standpoint, do not forget about that upper half. That upper half is so critical, and hopefully we can make a big push on social media when the time's right for that as well. So with that, I want to again kind of leave you guys with some closing remarks here about the tone of the rally. Please be respectful. You're going to hear from a lot of people today. You're going to hear opinions like mine. You're going to hear from scientists. You're going to hear from kids, the general public, the town of Clewiston. And we want to make sure we're all respectful and open your minds. You know, you guys have these solutions fixed in your head. Open your minds and listen right now. Let's pay attention because there's critical conversations that are going on here in this town and all the other towns that are with us today. So let's be mindful of that and respectful. And with that, I want to introduce Jackie. Jackie is the commissioner at the town of Sewell's Point, and she's a part of many organizations involved in this. She's part of the Rivers Coalition. She started River Kids as well, and she's fighting hard for us. She's our voice. So let's pay her some respect, and let's be grateful for her being here today.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Today, we are here to make history. Can I hear that from the crowd? Say, today, we are here to make history. Today, we are here to make history. One more time, louder. Today, we are here to make history. Thank you so much for being here today, ladies, gentlemen, children. I know it is hotter than the dickens out there because I was out there earlier, and it's not fair that I'm here underneath this roof. Before I get started, I wanted to thank the other people who have really brought today together. Of course, Justin Riney, Crystal Lucas from Martin County, Cynthia Trone, who works with Justin, Chris Costello, Slime Crimes from the West Coast, Marty Baum, our Indian River Keeper, and Andy Fairbanks, who is in Tampa but graduated from Martin County High School. Also, thank you to the city of Clewiston that has done nothing but show excellent Southern hospitality to us today. I am lucky in that I have met the mayor of Clewiston before, and I'm going to invite him up along with Janet Taylor, who's a county commissioner of Henry County. Philip Rowland has been in Clewiston for 71 years. He is the mayor of Clewiston, and Clewiston has problems too. We all have water problems, and that's why we're here today, to to nicely demand to our government to get it together and to start unifying and fix these problems that are filling up our rivers with toxic algae, that are filling up our lakes with toxic algae, that are destroying our springs, that are destroying our lakes. Florida is built on clean water. People came here because of clean water. And Roland is going to tell you like it is from the city of Clewiston.
Thank you. I'm Philip Rowland, the mayor of Clewiston. And certainly, this is Janet Taylor, a county commissioner from Henry County, that I never served with Janet, but I was also a county commissioner for 20 years. And we have the same thoughts you all do. My mother and father grew up in Indiantown, which I think most of you know where it is. So I went to Indiantown in a Model A. Once a month, I had to go. I mean, our whole family went. It was a ritual. 1 weekend a month, we went. And it was a great experience. All my cousins, W.W. Lumber is my first cousin, Iris Wall, a great historian about Florida and about cows and cowgirls and whatever she does. But today, Justin talked about the Kissimmee Valley. There is no problem in putting in another lake as big as Lake Okeechobee in front of Lake Okeechobee. There's 2,400 square miles up there, people, that it doesn't affect anybody. I mean, you can meander that thing where there's not a person affected. And we could have clean water coming into the lake. And let me also tell you, there's a 15 by 15 mile area out in the bowl of that lake that's pure sludge. I mean, absolute sludge. And it is the sludge that lake would have purged when Wilma came through. So that didn't happen. The dikes are there. So, but it's important to get that out of the lake. Once you reach a 16-foot lake, you've got 4.5 to 5 foot waves. And then the bottom turns over. And then you have sludge. And there's nothing we can do. Now, the one thing that happened this year that we're in a 1 in 50 year storm event by the amount of water that fell in the first 6 months. We had 70 inches of rain, literally all over South Florida, from Orlando down. That means that your property and my property and everybody's property was purged, just like you're getting ready for a colonoscopy. So it was purged, and today we feel the effects of all that. But, you know, it's not only the lake, it's not only the cows and they purge about 100 pounds a day up there in the Kissimmee Valley. And all that goes into the Kissimmee River. You heard Justin talk about it being a straight gut shot. And that's what it is. My father told me when I was 18 years old, when the Kissimmee was being built, that Philip, they are ruining Lake Okeechobee. And that was his love. And as I stand up here today, it is not the farmers down here on the south end. They can't make their water cleaner than rain. And that's what the people are asking them to do, EPA, DEP, whoever it is, that rainwater has more parts per billion of phosphorus than what they can pump off their land and it go into the Everglades. So, it's an undying force that we might not be able to accomplish. But if we put the area in above Lake Okeechobee, and if they'll let hyacinths be in that water, it will filter everything that comes to the lake. We won't be getting the Kissimmee River that is going to inundate the whole South Florida. That's just a promise. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please ride around Clewiston. It is one of the cleanest towns that you'll ever ride around in. And we appreciate y'all coming, and I hate to talk as long as I did, but because it's so hot. Thank you.
Thanks to the mayor, and he gave you the scientific part of it. But I want to give you the human part of it. And I hope any resolution or solution that we talk about for the problem that we are having, and we do know we have a problem, that we will work together with it. Let's agree to do that. Because it's ironic, I see a lot of anti-U.S. sugar signs around here, and I understand the reason why. But on this very land that you are standing, having this rally, was donated by U.S. Sugar to our communities. And when the mayor tells you about riding around town, you ride and look at our parks, our libraries, our swimming pools, and everything around here is part of U.S. Sugar. And I'm not up here to support U.S. Sugar in any way, but to let you know that the human part of this situation that we are talking about today is employment for the people who live here. If we flood out our sugar canes or things, we have no employment. That's going to leave us a ghost town. People who bought here for the reason and want to be sustained here. So they need to have a reassurance that their livelihood will not be taken away. The other thing, when we talk about discharges from the lake, this time of the year, I don't know what else we can do but talk about a solution, because it's personal to me. If we don't discharge from that lake, we might have a 1929 situation before us. Are any of you, 28, I'm sorry. Are any of you aware of that? Yes. Okay, and that we do not want, not only for us, but for anybody in this area. So whatever solution, let's work together with it, and let's remember the humans that live around in this area. And I pray God that he'll give us a solution that will protect all of us, not only you on the east and west coast, but especially us here in Clewiston, who's really going to be affected.
You know, this is what is so amazing about what has been happening and will continue to be happening as we all get together and get to know each other as people. This is where we can forge a real solution. Let's have one more round of applause for the mayor of Clewiston and also for the commissioner of Henry County. Really moving. Very moving. Just to remind people, because people do need to know that in 1928 and also in 1926, there were two great hurricanes. And you may have read about it in your high school history classes, and we just cannot forget that thousands of people were killed in the waters of Lake Okeechobee when they came over the dike. Those thousands of people are buried in Martin County on Highway 76 in a mass grave. And everything that we do in the future, we will absolutely honor the dead. So please know that. Speaker is the most dynamic woman you will ever meet. I've known her for a few years now. Her name is Chris Costello. She is of the Sierra Club, and she coordinates the statewide slime crimes campaign. She works with local governments and partners in water quality and advocacy groups to stop pollution and to stop pollution at its source. And I'm telling you, they always talk about someone behind the scenes who's making things happen. That person is Chris Costello. Please give her a round of applause.
So, who here is sick and tired of sick water? Okay, that was pretty good, but they didn't hear you in Tallahassee. So, come again. Who's sick and tired of sick water? There you go. There you go. We are all here today, believe it or not, about manure, sewage, and fertilizer. Fun stuff, ugly stuff. If you live downstream, you are swimming in it. We are all swimming in it. If you live in Florida, you're swimming in it. We are swimming in it in Lake Okeechobee. We're swimming in it in the Caloosahatchee, in the St. Lucie, but we're also swimming in it in the springs of North Florida. Wacola Springs, Silver Springs, Rock Springs, Hornsby Springs, Manatee Springs, the list goes on and on. We're also swimming in it in the Suwannee River, in the Santa Fe River, in the St. Johns River, the Ocklawaha River, the Withlacoochee River, and the list goes on and on. If you live in Florida, you're swimming in it. Sewage, manure, and fertilizer are what produces the muck in Lake Okeechobee. It's what feeds the toxic algae, the slime, the goo, the gunk, the red tides, the brown tides that kill jobs, kill property values, kill quality of life, kill wildlife, and makes us sick. Why are we still swimming in this stuff 40 years after the Clean Water Act? 40 years. Why? Because our state, our governor refuses to regulate sewage, manure, and fertilizer. The state has refused to stop pollution at its source, where it starts. The state has refused to make polluters, Florida's biggest polluters, clean up their own messes. You learned in kindergarten to clean up your own mess. Biggest polluters in Florida need to learn the same. Instead, believe it or not, the governor has given the polluters of this state, the biggest polluters of this state, the job of making up their own pollution rules. So who does that protect? Not me and you, not the working guy, not the taxpayers. The rules the polluters came up with are doozies too. As you can imagine, they leave two-thirds of all of Florida's flowing waters without nutrient pollution limits. Are you lucky enough or unlucky enough to live alongside one of those two-thirds of flowing waters? Every single flowing water south of Lake Okeechobee is unprotected, will be left unprotected. So if you're in Florida, South Florida, you're out of luck. That leaves all of us downstream up that proverbial creek, if you know what I mean. We are being slimed by the very state that is supposed to protect us. Slimy water, slimy politics. A cleanup project here and there is only so helpful. The water must be clean before it can be moved. Mayor Rowland is right. Most of the Lake O pollution actually comes from the north. But until we stop the pollution heading our way from upstream, we will never have a clean Lake O. And most of the tributaries that empty into the lake are exempted from protection under the Florida rule. How much sense does that make? We need to clean the water. We need to move it south. In order to restore the Everglades, we have to move the water south. It's the way Mother Nature intended it to move. But together, and I'm sure of this, together we can come up with a way to move it south that protects all of us. That's why I'm here today. We must hang together. We must start the process of drafting a citizen solution. Not the talking head solution, but a citizen solution to the problem. We have to hang together and not let the powers that be divide us. Podium, you know I like to chant. Let's do it again. What do we want? Clean water. When do we want it? Now. Thank you very much.
Well, your prayers were answered, and God let the clouds come in, so it is not like we're in a frying pan anymore. Let's say thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's wonderful that it's not so hot, and we have a nice breeze. Incredible. I really have to tell you that I have felt like I have seen great signs since I have been here. last night we were at the Roland Marina, Martin Roland Marina. We had dinner, and during dinner, a rainbow formed right over the Army Corps of Engineers headquarters. And then a 5-year-old girl looked at me and she goes, "Miss Jackie, it's not just a rainbow, it's a double rainbow." So I think that these are signs, as is your presence here today, that this movement is not stopping today. We are not stopping until we get some assurance that they are going to do the right thing and help clean our waterways. The next speakers are very dear to me. Jenny Flaw, my sister, and Nick Mader. They are the founders of River Kids, and also Naya and Evie Mader, the River Kids. All 4 of you, please come forward. Nick and Jenny will be speaking, and then the girls will be leading us in a chant. This is a little impromptu, but welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. And I would like to say, first of all, that it's been an amazing privilege to be a river mother and to watch Evie Flaw and Naya Mader, my own daughter, spearhead River Kids and do such a fantastic job and make so much commotion in the press. And luckily the press has been very kind to us, but we have had so much good fortune with them, and even Senator Negron at this past week's hearing did acknowledge them, and I'm just so proud of them. If you guys could please give them a big hand. Thank you, thank you. I also wanted to say, on behalf of the Dolphins, that's why I have the hat on. Yeah! Woo! Dolphins! I am out on the river 2 days a week doing dolphin surveys for Harbor Branch and also for Dolphin Ecology Project. And I'm out there doing water quality. My Tuesday guy is Mr. Benjamin Devanzo, who is here doing some video, taking pictures of everybody and doing video. A big hand for Benjamin. He's been a big advocate for the river. Woo! Anyway, we're out there 2 days a week, and obviously the dolphins are still there, the fish are still there, the birds are still diving, the water is disgusting, as we all know, and we take water quality every half an hour. And what we've seen is a huge decline, obviously, in salinity, which has been down, it was down to a 0 for weeks on end in the North and South Fork and in the St. Lucie. And it's risen a little bit, but obviously not enough for these oysters. We've seen death of a lot of oysters, but what we're wondering is how long is it going to take before our main top predators, marine mammals, the dolphins, until they absolutely can't take it anymore. And obviously that's dear to my heart. And I will definitely let you all know when it starts happening, but I just want us to realize there are marine mammals out there with families that have to live in these waters, and these waters are their home. They don't necessarily travel too far. So we have to remember that. They're right in our backyard, and they're getting polluted to death, and they're storing all those toxins in their blubber, and then they're dispersing it to their calves, and it's awful. So Gulf Restoration Network, they work with events like the BP oil spill, and this is what we feel we are dealing with too.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. We just got here from Tampa Bay, and I just want you to know that we are all behind everything that you're doing around here. This is obviously a statewide issue. We all have to get involved. Florida water is our treasure. It is our gem. It is what connects all of us. And I thank you all for doing this. And thank you to Chris for mentioning all those springs and rivers up in the northern part of Florida, because we all depend on water. And we all love water. So what you're doing and this group today is fantastic. I thank you so much for everything you're doing, and we just all got to keep up the fight. Thank you.
Yeah! Speaker has been an inspiration for me from the time I was a little girl, and her name is Mrs. Maggie Herchella. I'm going to read a little bit about Maggie. Maggie Herchella comes from a family of Florida adventurers who claim to have been stuck in the mud on half the dirt roads in Florida. She and Jim and her 4 small children moved to a mosquito-ridden wilderness in Port Salerno in 1968 and lived happily ever after, except for her compulsion to save Florida's wet and wild places. She served 5 terms as a Martin County Commissioner. Besides walking and canoeing the length of the Shark Valley Slough, without GPS or a cell phone, she has been involved in Everglades restoration since 1992. Please give a loud round of applause to Maggie Hirschhorn.
I want to repeat again that the promise of this meeting is to come together peaceably in the heart of South Florida to save the heart of South Florida. It's about coming together to get something done. And we're kind of like a family reunion of passionate people. It's not Hatfields versus McCoys, but it's kind of like you got all the Hatfields together in one place. It's not going to be easy to come together because most of us are mad as hell. But if we don't refrain from fighting among ourselves, the McCoys will win. We come from different perspectives. The West Coast wants to know why they're being dumped on more than the East Coast. They are tired of hearing about our toxic blue-green algae as if our crisis was superior to their crisis. The East Coast is an estuary in hospice. If this keeps up, it won't survive. We're about to have a dead estuary with irrevocable damage. We can't understand why that damage can't be shared. You have here in Clewiston a whole town full of people who live in the shadow of a failing dike. I have heard folks question in public meetings whether that risk is real. At lake levels of 18 feet, just about 3 feet away from now, less than that, there's a 40% chance of dike failure. In 2004, we had hurricanes that raised the lake level over 3.5 feet in 30 days. In 2008, the lake went up 2.5 feet in a week. It's September. We won't be safe until November. I don't want my estuary to die, but I don't want to share the pain by having people die here in Clewiston. My father was the first reporter to get here after the 1928 hurricane. He told us stories of the rowboats rowing in, towing bodies behind them. There are people here south of the lake, and we can't risk dike failure. So, if we can't blame each other, who can we blame? Better still, what can we do about it? We need to stand together and say we're not going to let the dike break. We need to stand together and say we are not going to let the coastal estuaries be killed. Most of all, we need to stand together to restore the greater Everglades ecosystem. We need to do it loudly, continuously, and peaceably. Being a politician, I can share with you some useful knowledge. The perspective that a lot of politicians have toward rallies and crowds and protests and angry people filling their meeting rooms. They say how happy they are to have you there. They hate it. First, they will tell you to be quiet, or they will clear the room. They will warn you to be polite, so that everyone can be heard, because this is democracy. They will ask you to choose a representative to speak for all of you, so you won't repeat yourself. They will give the representative 2 minutes to speak. If you do that, the politicians will ignore you. Later, they will say, they didn't hear you. If you make a lot of noise, they'll say you're unruly and illogical. Luckily, they won't shoot you or gas you. You have to keep talking. You're going to need to talk loud. You're going to need to get together in big groups to demand action. Every single one of you. And all your friends and relations and acquaintances are going to have to individually talk and Facebook and write and sign petitions and reach out and bring in other folks to do the same thing. And you will need to keep doing it. This crisis will be over. If it doesn't rain, the emergency measures will work wonderfully well. If it does rain too hard, the dike will break. But sometime in the next 5 years, this will happen again. To get something done, you will again need to understand the responses of politicians. They will begin by blaming God. They will, of course, have to find someone to blame. We've heard over and over in some of the meetings that this was an unexpected, record-breaking rainy season that could not be dealt with. It's true that it could not be dealt with. We weren't loud enough for long enough after the last crisis to get them to put real solutions in place. It is not true that it was unexpected. Florida is a land of extremes. We may be in a drought next year, but we will have extreme rains again, and the system will not be able to deal with it. I'm 72 years old. When I heard this was the wettest time ever, I wondered how they could say that, and I found out it's because they haven't been keeping records that long. I remember, and I expect the mayor does too, 1947, when it rained over 100 inches in South Florida. It was lots of fun if you were 7 years old. Daddy couldn't find a place to milk the cow because the bucket floated away, so he had to milk it into the floodwaters. This is not an act of God that we could not have planned for. Rain-wise, this will happen again. The next thing a politician is likely to do is blame someone else. Don't let them get away with it. Everyone likes to blame the Corps of Engineers because they built the dysfunctional system that's causing all the trouble, and because they're bureaucrats who are not allowed to fight back in dirty political ways. They built it because Florida demanded it, and Congress ordered it. After blaming the Corps, our politicians will blame Washington. Look over there toward that big dike. Not one single drop of water in it came from Washington, D.C. It's Florida's water, Florida's lake, and our Everglades and our estuaries. We done it to ourselves. In 2000, Congress made a commitment in authorizing the Comprehensive Everglades Restoration Plan to do their part in restoring America's Everglades. It was supposed to be a 50-50 partnership. It would be the largest environmental restoration ever attempted in the world for the second largest wetland in the world. It's not just about the Everglades. It's about the greater Everglades ecosystem that stretches from coast to coast in Orlando down through the Keys to the reef.
Yes.
Over 13 years, the partnership has degenerated into sibling rivalry. Like a bunch of kids in the back seat on a long drive. First, one partner behaved badly and the other didn't. Then they changed places. Then they blamed each other. We can't just tell them we're going to stop the car and make them walk home. We have to tell everyone who tries to blame someone else that they need to trek to Washington or wherever they have laid the blame and lobby effectively to make things work. What needs to happen? We need to get SEP authorized by Congress to build storage and treatment areas and flowways to move water south. Don't stop there. Don't criticize SEP for not being enough. Get SEP going and then build on it to move more water south. Congress needs to fund SERP. They say there is no money. How come there's money released from the sequester to fund control towers at small airports? And there's no money to save South Florida? We need to accelerate SERP funding to build reservoirs on the Caloosahatchee and the St. Lucie and to build SEP. Somehow, some way, we have got to turn out a lobbying effort of all of our public officials and all of us to say, this is not a good year to shut down the government. It's a time to do something. And at the grassroots level here, all of us who care have to find a way to rally supporters all over the country to tell their congressmen to meet the national commitment to save America's Everglades.
Yes.
Next thing is the state legislature needs to appropriate money to buy land. If you have not signed the legacy petition, it's right over there. Be sure you sign that. Florida had a long-term program that was the best in the country, backed by both parties, to spend $300 million a year on environmental land purchases. They stopped buying land. The state and federal partnership, which is CERP, is based on the fact that the state will buy the land. The Corps can't buy land. So what happens when the state stops buying land? Well, you can't design a project, you can't engineer a project, and you can't build a project if you don't have the land. It needs to recommit to buying land. We need to fix water management. That one's complex. The list is long. I won't tell you all of it, but we need to fix water management regulations at the local, regional, and state level so we don't increase the water running off to the wrong place every time we develop a piece of property. We need to fix water use permits so we don't give away water we don't have. We need to fix water quality standards so polluters pay to clean up what they cause. Don't get distracted by quick fixes and silver bullets. Don't get distracted by invitations to fight among yourselves. The only way we can get out of this mess is to put Humpty Dumpty together again and rebuild the state-federal partnership and accelerate a comprehensive solution. This is a democracy. This is the greatest democracy in the world. We can make this happen. We are the people, and we are the only ones who can make it happen. Thank you.
Like a legend, nothing like a legend. Thank you, Maggie Hercella. I'm very lucky that I grew up in a place where there were a lot of leaders for me to emulate as I grew up. And the next speaker is one as well. It's Mr. Mark Perry from Florida Oceanographic Society. Mark has spent 35 years of his life being the voice of the St. Lucie River and the Indian River Lagoon. No one has done a better job putting algae in the face of the politicians, toxic algae. Please give Mark a great applause. Thank you.
It really is great to see a lot of people coming together, and you know, this is the place to do that. And the mayor is correct. I mean, we've got to look at the whole problem and not just our solution. And as Maggie said, I've lived there. I grew up there. My parents moved there in 1957 when there were Indians at the end of Flagler Avenue, and I grew up in those waters and spent more time probably on a Boston whaler than I did on a bicycle. But it was great. And then I went away, college merchant marine. I came back in '78, and I've been fighting for that since. So that's 35, not 45 years. But I'm fighting just like everyone here, trying to get the waters right. And as Chris said, there are waters all over this state that are having a problem. And we need to remember that it is the Kissimmee River Valley that needs to be restored. And we need to restore that storage upstream so that it doesn't come down. That winding river with a 2-mile wide floodplain historically used to take 6 to 8 months for water to get from the upper chain of lakes south of Orlando to Lake Okeechobee. With a channelized Kissimmee, it now takes 2 days. We get rain up there, we get it in the lake. And it has nowhere to go because as the hurricanes came in 26, 28, then in 1930, the Hoover Dike was authorized, 1937 completed, 143-mile stretch around the lake, 35 foot high. And we controlled it by improving the Caloosahatchee to the west and the St. Lucie Canal to the east to dump it out. And basically we preserved this area south of the lake for what's known as the Everglades agricultural area. It's about 700,000 acres, and about 480,000 of those acres are sugarcane. And there was the U.S. Sugar Corporation formed in 1930. The Fonule family moved up in 1950s and bought another 200,000 or so acres. So they're Florida Crystals, and they're the two big owners. And then we have the cooperative owners. And sugarcane is here, and it's in the farm, and it is being kept that way and drained so that it preserves that. But back then, in the 40s, 30s, and 40s, we had no idea what we were doing to these estuaries in both the St. Lucie, Indian River, and the Caloosahatchee. We had no plan, no thought. All we wanted to do was get rid of the water. And in fact, in Florida, we wanted to drain all this Everglades and get rid of all this swamp with alligators. We wanted to drain it all and just get it off the coast. Now dump 1.7 billion gallons a day to the east and west in the Atlantic and Gulf of fresh water that used to go down through the River of Grass all the way to Florida Bay. It used to take 16 months going 1 mile every 4 days from Lake Okeechobee through this River of Grass described by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, all down through here to the tip of Florida. 16 months plus 6 months, that's like a year, 2 years to get all the way down. So that water has been channelized and changed, but our values back then were to get rid of it. And dumping 1.7 billion gallons a day is too much. Fresh water alone, just getting rid of fresh water, because all of us 7.7 million people here in South Florida consume about 1.3 billion gallons a day. So we're literally dumping to the Atlantic and Gulf more water than we can consume. So waste of fresh water alone, besides the pollution that it's causing and all the pollutants in it. So what can we do? We have to change this system. And the Corps of Engineers has two options. When they come, all this lake water has to go somewhere when it comes in from the lake. And yes, it's coming in too fast, and that's part of the greater Everglades restoration. But when it gets to the lake, they only have a couple of options. East and west at about 17,000 cubic feet per second capacity, but all the canals south only have 3,800 cubic feet capacity. So there's not capacity to move it south. And that's what we've been recently advocating, is we need this connection between Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades. We need this missing link that was there before where the water naturally flowed. We need some sort of link. And when you look back at 93, 94, the science subgroup and the recon study and part of the sustainable committee, which Maggie was a part of, looked at a plan called Plan 6, which was in between Miami Canal and North New River Canal. Now, Miami Canal is still east of here. It's not here in Clewiston, but it goes south. It goes south through there, and between Miami, North New River, about 10, 11 miles wide down to the bottom to the Everglades water conservation areas, and then from there to the Glades. But right now, we're getting 20% to the East Coast. Caloosahatchee gets 44% of the water coming out of the lake, and agriculture gets about 23%, and the Everglades only gets 13%. So the Everglades, who used to get 100% of the water, is now getting only 13%. So besides moving water south, we've got to restore those Everglades. But if we had that capacity between Miami and North New River, and I know we can do this. I know technically we can do a Plan 6 project, and it'd be all the way down the stream, and it won't affect people here in Clewiston. Clewiston has a lot of great sugarcane fields here. U.S. Sugar owns on the other side of this area we're talking about. And so out of the 480,000 acres we're talking about, we need about 50,000 acres more of the area north of where we already own, between that corridor, just to make that connection. And then have that capacity for the Corps when the lake, as Maggie said, this is going to happen again. And when the lake gets too high, they have the option to go south with that flow, and we have storage, conveyance, and treatment of that water. We don't want to send dirty water south. We want to send it clean through the River of Grass, just like Mother Nature used to clean it up. So I think we're all on the same page here, and I want to just assure, before I leave, I want to assure the people of Clewiston that we're not out here to take all their lands and their properties and do away with all this business. No, this is a beautiful place, and Clewiston had a historic inn over here. You should go visit that. And there's a lot of history along the Glades communities which needs to be preserved. And it used to be a beautiful lake, and we need to get it back to a beautiful lake. And we need to save our coastal estuaries from all this pollution and get the water moving south.
Fired up! Fired up! Whew. Our next speaker is someone that means a lot to me, even though I don't know her that well, because to me, she represents the entire Indian River Lagoon. And what is different about our movement is that our movement includes 6 counties along the Indian River Lagoon, and our movement now, of course, that we're uniting east and west includes Martin and Lee counties. That's a lot of people altogether. That's a lot of people that the politicians and the agencies will pay attention to like they're already doing. So I would like to read a short introduction for Dr. Lisa Suto from the Marine Resources Council. Dr. Lisa Sudo is the Executive Director of the Marine Resources Council, a nonprofit organization that uses science and education to restore the Indian River Lagoon.
Going on in our lives, to stand here in solidarity for water quality in our state. And it's great to see the diversity of people from both coasts and North and South Lagoon. And it's true that if we let them divide us, then we're not going to get our voice heard loud enough. So we need to stand in solidarity and talk loud. We have the power to empower our leaders, and we can do it if we stick together on this. So thank you all for being here today. A lot of what I want to, give yourselves a round of applause, it's true. So I wrote this on the drive down, of course, and everybody's already said most of it, so it's going to be a lot shorter now. We've had some great people speaking, and I'm a little intimidated going after the previous two because they are kind of notorious, but I have a few things to add. I think we all agree, thank you, that's kind, that water quality is important to us, and not just because we're humans and we need to drink water. That's clear, and everybody needs to drink water, not just some special interest group. But it's important to us as Floridians. It's part of our culture. We are a water-based culture. A huge segment of our economy relies on clean water. It makes up like 80% of our state's surface area is made up of water and coastal areas. And it's why people come here. Ecotourism is our largest industry. And the people come here for our water quality. They come for our springs and our beaches and our rivers and our estuaries and to fish and to swim. And what happens to our state and our economy when the people stop coming to the beach because of red tide, and when the people stop coming to enjoy the world-class fishing that we have in our state? And how are we going to explain to our children and grandchildren that the beautiful creatures that used to live in our waters are gone? And we used to have these fantastic dolphins and manatees, but they couldn't survive because the water quality got so bad. And what happens when there's no fresh water left to drink? I mean, what happens when we can't swim in our lakes in the summer in the middle of the state? Not because we're afraid of the large reptiles, but because we're afraid of a microscopic amoeba that might burrow itself into our brains. I mean, what's happening to our water quality is frightening. And I know you're here because you see that and you're outraged and you're ready to take action. And that is a huge relief. Every day when I wake up and I think about my job, I am both ecstatic to have the job that I have and terrified at the prospect of what we face in trying to solve the water quality issues that we have in the state. But it's invigorating to work beside people like the other speakers today, and you all that are out there working hard every day to protect water quality, and that's what makes it so exciting to be part of this effort. And we need to maintain that excitement and maintain that enthusiasm. I live in Melbourne, which is on the northern part of the Indian River Lagoon, and up by us, since the beginning of this year, 140 manatees have died. Dozens of dolphins have died. Hundreds of pelicans have died, to the point where they were like falling out of the sky. They were raining, like hundreds of pelicans. And the news barely covered it. You know, it's like those of us who were like avoiding the dead pelicans on West 192, wondering why in the world is there a dead pelican in the road, knew something was up, but somehow the media didn't seem to notice until recently, when the South Lagoon had this discharge occur, where the water quality got so bad that it got the attention of the state. And now, suddenly, everybody is trying to take action to protect the entire length of the lagoon, which is great. It's a great thing. The other thing that happened that's kind of discouraging is the seagrass is dying in the Indian River Lagoon. The seagrass is valued in an ecosystem value service at about $10,000 an acre. So when you see the seagrass chart, and it's going up over time, and then in 2011, it makes a sharp drop, you can just change that acres number to tens of thousands of dollars number and realize that our local regional economy just went down the toilet in 2 years. So It's an economic problem as much as an environmental problem, and it reaches everybody. You don't have to be a special interest group to have an interest in water quality. Our quality of life, our economy, our sense of place, our state depends on it. We have a right to be outraged. This rally is so important because together our voices will be heard by the politicians and the leaders. We need to demand our leaders to take action. We have such good examples of leaders in this state. They need to be what all of our leaders aspire to be. Our leaders need to all be as good as our great environmental leaders have been in the past. We're not a special interest group. We're everyone who values the clean water and the economy that depends on it. And we are, through this rally and through this process, going to change the political conversation by empowering our political leaders to do the right thing. The Army Corps did a tremendous job, and the political will was there in the 1930s to build this tremendous structure to protect human life and welfare here. What we need to do is change that conversation and that directive to consider the environment as well. So besides human life and safety, there needs to be a directive to the engineers to address the water quality issues. The directive we want is clean water. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! And we can do it. As a state, together, we can accomplish that. But we have to make our leaders act, and we have to do it now. And we have to keep making them act. We can't just be complacent that once we've gone home from this rally, that it's been done. We need to keep doing it. And we need to continue this conversation. And I have the Hands Across the Lagoon flyers that hopefully everybody has now. We are joining hands across 8 causeways across the Indian River Lagoon in 6 counties on September the 28th, 2013 from 9 to 10 a.m. And on November 8th and 9th, we're going to be assembling a Lagoon Action Assembly. Check the Marine Resources Council website. We're hoping to engage 300 diverse stakeholders in a facilitated conversation about how to proceed with protecting and restoring the Indian River Lagoon. And we can't rest until it's done. Thank you so much.
Tired out there, are you? You guys aren't going, oh my gosh, I'm starting to melt. I was thinking about having the river kids come up here and have us all do jumping jacks. What do you think? No? Okay. Then we'll bring on our next speaker, who I also happen to know through the Florida League of Cities, and she is a handful. She is awesome. Her name is Martha Simmons, and she is a council person from Bonita Springs, which again is our partnership on the west side of the state. So I'm going to read a short bio about Martha, and I was hoping Martha would come up and be here while I read. She really is somebody from the Florida League of Cities who's my hero. She's very outspoken. Very outspoken. It's awesome. People always like their jaws drop when Martha starts talking. I'm like, yes. No, it's great. It says, Martha attributes her love of nature and environmental advocacy to her father, a World War II Navy combat pilot. He spent time with his youngest daughter birdwatching, hiking, stargazing, and discussing a book by environmental pioneer Rachel Carson. As a Girl Scout, she participated in the first Earth Day in 1970, where her activism was born. Recently, she has been honored for her legislative lobbying success, defending the rights of Florida's local governments to protect our rivers, creeks, beaches, and lakes from fertilizer pollution. From the beautiful Gulf Coast city of Bonita Springs in Lee County, please welcome City Councilwoman, Martha Simmons.
Thank you.
Keep it at 3 to 5 minutes.
Well, I'll do my best. Okay, hey, thanks everybody for being out here today. I'm not very good at speaking right off the cuff. Well, most of the time, unless I want to keep myself out of trouble, I read from my prepared text, so just give me a second to get that up here. I want to thank the mayor of Clewiston and the citizens here for hosting us today. What wonderful hosts they are, and you're all being marvelous guests. It's a beautiful day to be here. We have rain clouds, and that's always a good sign, and a great occasion to be gathered together. We want to save our waters. We demand clean water. We want to protect our neighbors' homes from flooding. We are joining together from East Coast, West Coast, yay West Coast, with our inland friends, yay Clewiston and our friends here. Because our waters know no county or city lines. Because all of our communities are suffered. Because it will take all of us to solve the problem. And I'm honored to be with so many here who've been leading and fighting for so many years. You're so smart and you're so wise and you're so committed, and your testimony and your willingness to speak truth to power is inspiring. I also want to thank the local farmers, who have allowed their fields to be used to store water. They're making a sacrifice too. Until we get this problem solved, they will continue to sacrifice. And I even want to thank Governor Rick Scott. Okay, not because I think he's an environmentalist, but this is not a partisan issue. This is a health emergency. It's an economic emergency. Yes, an environmental emergency. And we are calling out loud and clear, and he took some action. Because we and many others let him know our waters and local economy are being hurt. But the recent announcement to construct a Tamiami Bridge is only a small part of the solution, maybe 10%. So how will we get that water to the south? Most importantly, I want to thank you and all those who have contributed to the effort to solve the man-made problems which led us here today. I ask you to remember the name always of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. What a great lady, right? The mother of the Everglades. For almost her entire life, and from the time she was 79 years old and she lived to be 108, God bless her, she focused to save our waters in the rivers of grass, which flows from the Kissimmee through Lake Okeechobee, the big water. As admired as she is, our mother of the Everglades was not always well received because she said what needed to be said. Truth is not always popular. And I want you to remember the name of Sanibel Mayor Carla Brooks Johnson, a good friend of ours who passed away several years ago, very quietly in her battle against cancer. She was not quiet, however, when her city bore the brunt of Lake O releases. Mayor Johnson was a change maker. She educated and led others in the fight to save our waters when freshwater releases into the Caloosahatchee River proved too much to bear, caused algae blooms, fish kills, dying seagrasses. She called on local mayors. She ran for mayor herself. State leaders, Congress, and the Army Corps of Engineers to come to the table to face and solve the devastating effect of Lake O releases on West Coast communities. And again, she was not always held in high esteem, but she spoke the truth. And that's what we need, is the truth. And I want you to remember the name of for our former Lee County Commissioner Ray Judah, who as a marine biologist thought he had something to contribute and ran for office in 1988. And during his 28 years of public service, he fought for clean water in our wetlands. And today, as a private citizen, Ray Judah continues to lead with passion and for the same cause with Florida Coastal and Oceans Coalition. Again, Ray dares to bear witness to the facts that may not often sit well with the status quo. Yeah, right. Thank you for remembering Ray. Big Sugar put him out of business. Yeah, but, the truth will show Big Sugar what will happen there. Okay, now, why do I want you to remember these names? Oh, you know what? I want you to remember Jackie over here, okay? City Commissioner Jackie of Sewell's Point. She is leading the same fight for the East Coast and the Indian River Lagoon. She needs to have our continued support because she is telling the truth. Okay. And this is why I want you to remember all those names. Because these are people who, like most of us, me, I'm just a kid from the neighborhood who had the guts to run for office against a millionaire, and I had $5,000. Okay, we do not have great wealth or powerful connections, but we have the desire to serve others and a dedication to our natural resources. These people, who I mentioned before and who are right here before me, put themselves in the public arena despite the naysayers and the opposition. They saw what was good, and they know that one person can make a difference, and that's each one of you. They brought people together to raise awareness, call for action, solve problems, and you can do that too. You're all change makers, okay? Just coming to the rally is not enough. You're going to take this message home. You're going to tell your neighbors, tell your friends. The problem with Lake O has been more than 100 years in the making, as we've heard testimony from people here earlier. We need to remain steady, focused, urgent. You know, okay, we have urgency when the releases come down the river and it's awful and then everybody goes home back to bed, you know, when it's over. No. That's not going to work. And as I said, those who we admire today have not always been popular. They have not always said what was popular, but they say what is true. And that will include our solution, this multi-pronged approach to get this problem fixed. Diverting water to sugarcane fields that would otherwise damage the estuaries, the sugar industry will be covered by insurance to mitigate their losses. Am I covered by insurance to mitigate my business losses? I haven't got any money yet, and BP hasn't sent any money over our way either. Okay, demanding that our legislators make polluters pay. It's not right that the taxpayers foot the bill to make right that which private concerns made wrong. Hello? Where's the Tea Party? Come on, you people, join us. Okay, the river looks like tea. That's not good. Okay, demand that our Congress stop giving money to Big Sugar in our farm bills. It's our money. Tell them just say no. Okay? Just say no, like the just say no to drugs. I don't know about sugar, but, you know, just say no to sugar. Okay, the solution will be implementing best management practices, requiring fertilizer conservation, which the state has been trying to take away from us and we beat back for 7 years. Stop nitrogen and phosphorus pollution in our waters. Give compensation to farmers for impounding water on their fields. Come on, we got to support our farmers too. That's a real industry. Okay, there are good farmers out there. They know what to do. They're some of the best conservationists. Not all of them, but some of them are very good conservationists. Stop flood control back pumping into Lake O and the C-43 reservoir, please. Okay. Construct a spillway for Lake O as part of the Herbert Hoover, and I can't say that very fast, Herbert Hoover Dike restoration. And please restore the Herbert Hoover Dike, because like New Orleans, this is a huge disaster waiting to happen. We're just sitting on something waiting to happen. You know, do we need to see a Katrina-like event? No, we don't. We don't want that. Let's be preventative. Let's save lives. Let's save money. You know, we want to be conservative? Okay, let's be preventative. It's always the best way to go. And we need to continue to support and promote political leaders, old or new, who recognize the problem and will fight for the solutions. Most pressing, other speakers have spoken about this, is to find a way to purchase sugar lands before the 3-year option runs out this October. This is what we need to cry loud and clear about. Everybody, go home, call 1 million people, text, tweet, you know, whatever y'all do, Facebook, all that stuff. Tell your friends, call the governor, and if we were to move water south to the Tamiami Bridge, we have to do this. I mean, how are we going to get it to that Tamiami Bridge? Okay, I don't know how or if it will happen. I don't know if the federal government can come in the case of an emergency. But as Mayor Johnson of Sanibel once said, we are dialing 911. Who's going to answer? And today, there's also something small that you can do while you're here in Clewiston. Go to their store, go to their shop, go to their restaurant, stay overnight, stay at a hotel. Help them diversify their economy here. Our small inland communities need our help too. So I just want to thank you very much. Speak up at your city council meetings, your county commission meetings. Don't stop talking. You know, follow the rules, but don't stop talking. You yourself speak the truth and become a leader. Because, you know, if a kid from the neighborhood like me can do it, you can do it too. Thank you. Stop the crime. Stop the slime.
So much for staying out there. I know that it is looking a little dark. If it gets too dark, we will concede. At this time, I would like for Mike Kemp to come up. He is a school teacher, a high school teacher from Clewiston. Very, very important thing to be a teacher. I'm a former teacher. Thank you, Mike. I'd also like Celia Cherez from Clewiston High School to come up. Thank you, Celia. And I would also like the most handsome county commissioner along the Treasure Coast, Chris Davosky from St. Lucie County Commissioner, District 1, and an awesome environmentalist to come up too. So I'm going to ask these 3 people to speak. Where should I put this? I'm going to ask these. I'm going to donate this. I'm going to donate this to, we're going to start a new account for us. I'll figure out what it is, but we're going to start a new account for us, for the Clean the Waters, Send the Water South account. Okay, I need to stop. So these three people will speak. Hopefully, please just speak for about a minute and a half in case there is lightning. Thank you.
Thank you. And what an honor it is here to speak to everyone today. I'm an educator, a coach, and an environmental enthusiast. And my students would tell you I'm quite a storyteller. I love what I do, to say the least. Educators